DreAllDay.com.
Before we start, please like and comment on this video so I can get your feedback. Also, click that subscribe button so you can get all the new content I'm dropping on this channel. And the free book, the mental handbook, physical book, Work on Your Game University, just take care of the shipping and handling, send this right to your doorstep. Let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. This week's motivation is not asking how big the giant is, not asking how big the challenge is, not asking what's the chances that I lose, not putting yourself mentally in a state of thinking about failure. And the story I'm gonna share with y'all came from this book actually called David versus Goliath, David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell. And all of us know the story of David and Goliath, right? Goliath was this big giant, one-eyed giant who nobody could defeat. David was this little shepherd farm boy who with a slingshot hits Goliath in his one weak spot in his eye and kills him. But the real story goes a little bit deeper than that, and Malcolm Gladwell explains this in his book, David and Goliath. If any of you read it, you know this backstory that he gave. Now, what happened is there were actually two armies that used to always fight against each other all the time. Goliath happened to be part of one of those armies, and he was known for being a fierce warrior who had killed many people. Nobody had killed him yet. So once, before these two armies went to fight against each other again, the two leaders of the armies, the two kings, came and had a meeting, and they said, listen, we need to end all this bloodshed. Why don't we end this once and for all so everything's settled? And this is what they decided to do. You guys, one side, you're going to send your best soldier down in the valley to fight, and we're on the other side, we're going to send our best soldier down in the valley to fight. These two soldiers will fight against each other, and whoever wins, that winning side becomes the owners. You become slaves to us. Your wives, your children, all of you become slaves. Whoever's on the losing side, whichever soldiers is on the losing side, you all become slaves forever. And they said, okay, let's do it. So what happens is one side sends down Goliath. The side that had Goliath, he was the fiercest warrior out there. Everybody knew Goliath was like unbeatable. Nobody wanted to get near Goliath because he always killed people. He was just too big, too strong, too tough. So as Goliath comes down to fight in the valley, the other side's king is asking, okay, who is going to go down there and fight Goliath to keep us from all being slaves? Nobody wanted to go down there and fight Goliath because they were all afraid of him, because he had defeated so many people, because they knew losing meant death. They would get killed just by fighting him, and none of them thought they could win. So the king's waiting who's going to do it. He says, listen, now anyone who wins, if you win, I'll shower you with riches. I'll make you the richest man in all the land. And I'll let you marry my daughter, the princess. And she was the most beautiful woman in the land. Who wants to do it? Nobody wanted to step up. Now finally, David, who wasn't even a soldier, stepped up and said, hey, let me go fight Goliath. And the king said, you? How are you going to go fight Goliath? And David said, listen, I know how to work this slingshot. He was an expert with his slingshot. He said, I've killed lions and bears with my slingshot. He used to actually run, and he could fire it running full speed, his slingshot, and actually hit an animal and kill it. And that's what he used to do. He said, listen, I know how to do that. He kind of sold himself a little bit. On top of the fact that none of the other soldiers wanted to fight Goliath, the king said, okay, well, I guess this is it. We're either going to become slaves or you're going to defeat Goliath. How are you going to do it? I have no idea. So they went and brought him all this armor to put on his armor and shield so he can go fight, and give him a sword. David said, I don't need none of that. I'm good. David went down there with no armor whatsoever. He starts running down the hill into the valley to fight Goliath. Now, Goliath can only see out of one eye. He was blind out of the other eye. So he is like, if you just try to cover up your eye and look to that side that the eye is covered up, you see you got to turn your whole head to see anything because you lose all your peripheral vision. So Goliath couldn't see he couldn't see side to side too well, but anything that was in front of him he could see, and that's how he always killed people, and that's the way people fought back then. It was hand-to-hand combat. So David runs down there going fast. Goliath's still turning, trying to find him because he can't even see him. David fires a slingshot, boom, hits Goliath in the eye. He didn't kill Goliath with it. It actually just knocked him out cold. Goliath falls down as he's knocked out cold. David runs over to him while he's knocked out, grabs his sword and chops his head off, and the rest is history. That's how you get the statue of David. So that's what actually happened. But the reason I'm telling you all that for this week's motivation is this. When David went to go fight Goliath, you know what he did not say? He didn't say, hey, how many soldiers has this guy killed in his past? He didn't say, hey, now, how does Goliath usually kill his opponents? Does he cut their throats? Does he stick the sword into their stomachs? What exactly does he do? Does he chop their heads off? How do people die when they lose to Goliath? He didn't say, hey, how big is he? Is he 6'8" or is he 6'9"? He didn't say, hey, what side of his hand, which hand does Goliath hold his sword in his right hand or in his left hand? Or how thick is his armor? Or how many blows can I take wearing all this armor that you're going to give me? He didn't think of all the contingencies of losing. David ran down there because he said, number one, I know I can do this. I think I can. I think I can. Like the little engine that could. That was number one. Number two, he was asking himself not what could I lose, my life and everybody on our side becoming slaves. He said, what do I get if I win? If I defeat the giant, what do I get? Oh, I get riches. Oh, I get to marry the princess. I'm good. Let's do it. He didn't ask, how can I fail? He didn't ask, how tough of a challenge is this? He didn't ask, what are all the reasons why nobody else wants to do it? Since nobody else wanted to do it, there must have been some possible drawbacks to the situation. Yes. He didn't ask that. He said, what do I get? What do I get when I win? That's the question you need to ask yourself in anything that you're doing. It doesn't mean, I'm not telling you to completely ignore any possible setbacks. And I'm not telling you that you shouldn't maybe have some type of plan in your mind or on paper for what you're going to do. But when you're focused on failure, when you're focused on why this is impossible, when you're focused on why this guy's undefeated and unbeatable, guess what? You're going to fail. It's going to seem impossible. And that guy will still be undefeated and unbeatable after he defeats you, because you went in there with a mindset of defeat. That's exactly what you get. We all know what you focus on, you create, right? So what are you focused on? Are you focused on how you might lose and how it might not work? Or are you focused on what do you get? This is a question you need to ask yourself before you take action. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.